Hello and welcome to the Happy Tenants podcast. On today's episode, we're joined by Erin Shelby from Blend MN there in Minnesota. How are you doing today, Erin?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, good. I'm so excited to learn more about your story. We've chatted a couple times, but haven't got too far into it. I like to learn with the listeners on the show. So let me give you a minute to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you, and then obviously we'll dive into your story and a little bit more details about some things that you wanted to share.
Perfect. So my name is Erin, of course. I am in Minnesota. I live in the suburbs of Minneapolis. We serve the entire metro area with Blend, and I am also a mom of three, so very busy. I launched Blend actually under a different name originally, but it was in March of 2022. So almost 2 years ago, not quite. And we have gone through some ups and downs, which I'll talk about. But starting at kind of the 1 year mark, so March 2023, things really started to pick up and really gain speed, and a lot has happened since then. So I'm excited to talk about, the momentum that we've gained and how we've done that and all of that.
Yeah, exactly. Perfect. Exactly. So yeah, by the time this show comes out, you'll be really close. If not, in fact, it might come out in March. So you might be perfect. We're
Okay.
recording this at the beginning of January for those that are listening. So it should be perfect. Ups and downs I think are very common, and one of the things with the podcast we try to highlight is that the actual work that goes into it, the challenges and things like that. Not to say that you shouldn't do it. It's more or less to say this is what to expect, because I feel like sometimes people hit those road bumps and they're like, this isn't meant for me. I'm not able to do this, so on and so forth. So we
Mhm.
really want to clear that out of the way. And you,
Yeah.
I know, can attest to that. But I'd like to get into your story a little bit. You mentioned, about a year into business, your business was struggling a bit, and
Mhm.
then you kind of flipped. There was a switch that flipped, probably first in you, and then obviously that
Yeah.
translated to your business. So I'd love to take us there to that time and what was going on, how you were feeling, all that stuff that was happening, and then on the flip side, like what happened from that.
Yeah, for sure. So, a year ago, a little bit longer than a year ago, so probably fall of 2022 into winter of 2023, I was going through a really hard divorce and moving and trying to figure out a lot of things in my personal life that were really challenging. I also have a special needs child who
Mhm.
requires a lot of care and attention and therapies and appointments and all of these different things. And of course that stuff always comes first. And at that time I was drowning in my personal stuff and my family stuff, and as a result, my business was really struggling. I literally did not have the mental capacity to even like try to think about how to manage all of the things, right? But at the same time, I needed money. We all
Yeah.
have bills to pay. That doesn't stop no matter what is happening. And I think one thing that really made it more difficult to kind of get restarted again was I was just stuck in comparing my business to everyone else's. You get on these Facebook groups or you look at other businesses on Instagram, and it's really easy to see, how much success they're having, or, it seems like everything comes so easily to them and you don't see what's happening behind the scenes. And I think that's one thing that, no matter what business you're in, you can get stuck in that comparison
Yes.
trap very easily. And for me, I was trapped in
Yeah.
that for a while.
Yeah.
But like I said, I desperately needed money. I needed to pay my bills,
Mhm.
and all of that. So last March, so March 2023, I have to remember what year it is now.
I
It's
know.
um, March 2023, I was like, okay, I need to give myself some tough love here. Like I need to do something. At that time it was just me. So if anything was going to get done, of course it had to be me. I didn't have a team. I didn't have anything at that point. So I really decided to focus on Instagram.
Mhm.
Instagram, obviously, we all know is wonderful. It can be a wonderful tool if you use it correctly.
Mhm.
And for me, I started by just kind of figuring out who did I want to like work with. who was I trying to work with, and who did that look like? Like, where were they? What type of people are they? Of course, women, but that's not specific
Broad.
enough.
Yeah.
So, I really spent some time to figure out my ideal clients, my kind of like dream client. And that helped drastically to kind of have that foundation, because at that point, then I knew who to follow on Instagram. I knew who I wanted to follow me. I knew what type of content to create. I knew what types of influencers to partner with. It just kind of all made sense once I had clarity on my dream client, because then I could find them and then they could find me, more
Yeah.
importantly.
Yeah.
At first you have to go out and find them, but then if you're doing it right, they come to you, which is
Hmm.
what we all want, right?
Yep.
We all want the best clients to find us, and that's that.
Yeah.
So I spent a lot of time doing that kind of at the beginning of March. And then as March went on, I gained a ton of momentum on Instagram. That means a ton of followers, a ton of engagement and things like that. And then I think my engagement increased by almost 2,000% in
Wow.
March. So it was working. I knew what I was doing was working, and that told me, looking at the numbers, which if you have a business account on Instagram, you can all see the numbers.
Yeah.
Um, Knowing what they mean is a whole different thing, but you can
Sure.
see the numbers and like how much it increases or decreases in certain time frames. And I definitely used all of those statistics and all those numbers to tell me what to do and what not to do.
Yeah.
So, you see a number like 1,900% increase, and you're like, okay, I need to keep doing what I'm doing
Yeah. Yeah.
because it's working. And that's just what I kept doing. I was finding clients that I really wanted to work with, who
Yeah.
I connected with, but who also valued what I did, and weren't concerned about the price of my service.
Mm.
People regularly tell me I should be charging more. And that also tells me that I've really found my dream clients, because they value what I do and the service that I provide and the experience that we give. And so as March, April, May kind of went on, and that's when we start getting into our busy season. So of course, the time of the year
Yeah.
combined with the work I was doing with Instagram, it just really started to explode, and I was completely booked out.
Wow.
And so if you look at February to say May, just a couple months, I went from maybe a handful of appointments in February to being completely booked out in April and May. And
Wow.
that's a very fast turnaround.
Yeah, it is.
And so I just kept focusing on Instagram and growing what I was doing there, partnering with really strategically minded local influencers. Um,
Mm.
Everyone might not be able to do that because, just depending on where you live. I live in a large metro area. I think the metro area here is about 3 million people. So
Right.
there's enough of a market here where we have kind of these hyper local influencers who actually have influence.
Yeah. Right.
Everyone
Right.
tries to be an influencer, but not everyone has influence.
Yeah, for sure.
So, in smaller towns and things like that, that might not be a strategy that is really possible. But for me, living in, kind of a larger market,
Hmm.
it definitely helped to have these partnerships with local influencers. And then, there's one in particular that I still work with every month. And she has brought in probably hundreds of clients.
Wow.
And she's connected me to other influencers. She's connected me to, like the um, host of the local radio station who's got, tens of thousands of followers,
Oh
and
yeah.
another influencer who has like 70,000 followers. So that has just been snowballed. That has been a huge win for the business. Um,
Yeah.
so all of this is happening, and all this growth is just so fast, and I couldn't keep up. And then I started getting requests for appointments because I'm fully mobile. I started getting requests for appointments like an hour away, 45 minutes away. And for me, with traffic and all of that kind of stuff, I'm just not interested in driving an hour away for an
Yeah,
appointment. Just not going to
absolutely.
do it. So once those requests started becoming more frequent, I said, okay, now it's time to expand my team. I need to hire someone. So in July, I hired and trained my first spray tan artist on my team. Her name's Carissa. She's amazing. She's been like the perfect fit, and she's even like brought in people, and she lives over in the East Metro, opposite side of me. So she can handle all of those appointments over there. I don't have to drive an hour away. It's great. And then let's see, probably sometime in Q4 of 2023, I can't remember exactly, maybe like October, November, somewhere in there. I had another spray tan artist reach out to me and ask to be on my team.
Oh,
And so
wow.
that was like amazing to me, because then I was like, okay, people actually are seeing what we're doing,
Yeah.
not just clients, but other spray tan artists. She told me she loves my brand. She wants to work under me and just have me manage everything, and then she can just go to the appointments. And it worked out perfectly because she's in a different area of the metro than me and Carissa. So now we've expanded even further. And at this point, the three of us are covering 9 counties across the Twin Cities metro area.
Wow, that's
And
amazing.
that growth happened really quickly.
Yeah. That is quick. That's definitely quick. I actually was jotting down some stuff so I didn't forget, because that was a great story. I was really into it, but I didn't want to forget. Going back to the beginning, thinking about it, like 2022 when you started in March, what led you to do that in the first place? Like, I'm curious, with 3 kids, and I mean, I can't even
Yeah,
imagine. We have one, and that's a lot. So 3 kids,
three
and
is a lot.
yeah.
3 is maybe too many. Okay, that is a good question. And people ask me that a lot. And it was kind
Yeah.
of a couple things that led me to be in this industry in the first place. So previously I was in sales. I've done sales of every kind, everything
Mhm.
from insurance to skincare to, whatever else, because sales is sales is sales. And, I was pretty successful, was making good money, but I literally woke up every day dreading doing any sort of work. I was
Mm.
like, oh, like I just don't want to get out of bed. Like I was so burnt out. I hated what I was doing. It did not fit in with my life, or my, kind of like my vision for my life, or the
Yeah.
fact that, like you said, I have 3 children, and having like a corporate sales job when you have 3 kids, especially one who has special needs, it's not conducive to a harmonious, balanced life.
Yeah, for sure.
Um, and so I knew I wanted to do something, and I just didn't know what. I always say, like, I didn't know what I wanted to be when I grew up, and I
Mhm.
was in my 30s, of course. But I kept seeing some ads on Facebook for a spray tanning class. And the first time I saw it, I was like, okay, that's interesting. And then, it retargets you, and you keep
Yeah.
seeing the same ads. And so I was like, that sounds kind of fun. Let me just sign up for the class. Um, because at the same time, I had actually 2 friends diagnosed with melanoma, and
Mhm.
they were both really young to be going through, cancer. That's so
Mhm.
scary.
Right.
And both in both situations, it was mostly due to tanning beds, laying out in the sun, and before we knew any better. This was years and years ago. And I'm someone who's very, very pale and freckly, and I don't tan at all in the sun, and I just burn like a lobster. So I know the dangers of the sun firsthand. So I just really was feeling like pulled to um, kind of use that as education,
Yeah.
because of, I saw my friends going through cancer due to tanning beds, which is insane that people still do this.
Yeah.
And so that, along with these ads on Facebook I kept seeing for this course, I felt was kind of like a sign, like this is what I should be doing. So I signed up for the class. It was all online, all virtual. It took me a lot longer to complete because I got COVID in the middle of it, and I was like down for the count.
Of course. Yeah.
And normally I would be like, okay, well, maybe I'm not supposed to do it after all. This is the universe telling me I should not do this, because now
Right.
I can't do it. But as soon as I was feeling better, got back into the course, I fell in love with it. I loved every aspect of it, from like kind of like the more like sciency, like how it all works, and like mixing solutions and all of these different things. But then more importantly, I've just loved helping women feel confident and watch that transformation that happens in like 15 minutes. You know, they
Hmm.
step into your tent. You know, a lot of women are like apologizing for their body or, you know, whatever it is. And then by the time they step out of your tent, they're like, oh my gosh, I feel so good. Like, that is a very dramatic transformation in 15 minutes. And I love witnessing that every single day. I became
Yeah.
obsessed with it.
Yeah. That's awesome. What a cool story, and how, how it kind of came to be. And it's one of those things where it's kind of knocking at your door, like you said,
Yeah.
like it definitely shows up. So that's, I think a lot of people can relate to the job thing, right? People have jobs they're not very passionate about. Spray tan's a great kind of conduit, right? Because you can do mobile, you can do part-time, you can do on
Yeah.
your own hours as a transition period. And a lot of people that have been on the show, a lot of people I speak with went through that. Some people jump full ship, but some people are gradually moving out into their own business, which is a great opportunity. And we try to help, we want to inspire people to do that because there's so much more to life. And so many different things I'm sure you can relate to. I want to talk a minute about the ideal client. This was
Yeah.
probably 6 years ago, maybe 7 years. We had an email. We had like a document on helping people find their ideal client. I don't know how many people actually took that serious or even still would, but
Really. I mean,
there,
seriously,
yeah, yeah,
that's a huge step that people just skip. And I
yeah,
do think, you know, when we originally spoke, Grant,
yeah,
we kind of touched on there's a real gap in like business education in this industry, and it's
mhm,
no one's fault. And I know, you know, that's one of the reasons why you wanted to start the podcast. And
yeah,
you are providing so much education, whether it's through people's stories or, you know, the things that you have on your website, because that is such a gap that people are missing. And I think that's the real difference between, you know, a spray tan artist who just kind of like can never launch really, you know, they
yeah,
have that failure to launch, and then a spray tan artist that really is able to take off and be successful. It's not because they're not a good spray tan artist. You
hmm,
know, they could have the best technique in the world, but if no one knows about them or if they can't find clients, then of course they don't have a business.
yeah,
And so, yeah, the ideal client thing, it was a game changer for everything that I did after. You know,
yeah.
it provided so much clarity, that, you know, otherwise I would not be in the position that I am in now for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I had somebody once tell me that, if you want your business to be some or to grow or to change, to go ahead and treat it like it is that way. So I think a lot of
Yeah.
people that get into this treat it as a hobby, and it probably pretty much forever stays a hobby until they decide, like, let me set up some standard, SOPs, standard operating procedures. Let me find my ideal client. Let's document that. There's worksheets you can do. It doesn't have to be complex, but it really helps. I think it allows you, what I tell people is, it allows you to like write your emails or do your post like directly to that one person, and you don't say them as a person. Obviously, you probably, maybe you named your avatar, I don't know, but you
I
speak
did
to
name
that. Okay,
mine.
what's the name? It's got to be something good.
Her name is Rachel, and I just
Okay,
feel like giving a name makes it even more human. Like, it just
yeah,
humanizes. And I always use the approach that I'm like writing a text to Rachel,
yeah,
um, because then I'm talking like a normal person. I don't sound like a robot. I don't sound like I'm trying to sell something. I just sound like I'm talking to a friend. And
hmm,
I think that, that's another thing that, you know, people try to sell, or, you know, they try to sound, I also consider it kind of like the newscaster voice, you know,
hmm,
the newscaster accent, where they just
yeah,
sound weird. You
yeah,
know, talk like we're talking right now.
yeah,
Um, and I think that's, if you just pretend that you are sending a text to your dream client when you're like, you know, writing a caption on Instagram or writing an email
hmm,
to your email list or whatever it is, I just think it comes more naturally and it
yeah.
sounds so much better.
It does, and it definitely speaks more to those people. It's funny because I think, as there's transition periods, I think a lot of the big brands, in the world have been, and this is kind of a larger scale, been replaced by some smaller brands that are more direct and kind of, they're not scared to speak to their audience. I think of all these my wife's really into holistic stuff. So we buy all these natural products and all this. And it's always funny to read the packaging and they're
Yeah.
nonchalant. It's just like they're talking to a friend. They have like slang terms. I'm like, 10 years ago, you would never see like
Yeah,
corporate
that's
America, you
so
never
true.
see. Yeah.
We actually have a product line as well, and
Yeah.
on all of like, how to use and all of
Yeah.
that, like we use a very casual conversational type of language
Yeah.
versus more formal.
Yeah.
And when my clients are looking at, what they want to purchase, they always comment on that, like that they love it.
Hmm.
And I think that's huge
Yeah.
for emerging brands to just have that connection to who they want to serve, to their
Yeah.
clients and all that.
Yeah, I agree. It definitely makes it easier to talk to those people and to find the people that want to be,
Mhm.
part of your I wouldn't say follow them, but part of your friends or business or whatnot. I think it's
Yeah.
important to do that. So I guess one of the questions that I would have as somebody that doesn't do social media themselves is obviously I've seen this. There's people that have a ton of followers, there's not much engagement. There's people that have followers and could ask people to buy something and 100% of them will. There's people that have all these followers, but how do you turn those followers into customers? Is it just part of the process? Do you feel there's any specific thing you did that helped translate that or what?
Yeah, I mean, well, first of all, I don't think you need a massive following list in order to be successful. I think right now, at the time we're recording this, we have between 1,100 and 1,200 followers, which isn't massive.
Hmm.
Um, it has definitely grown a lot. Last year at this time, we probably had like 300 or something like
Hmm.
that. More importantly, not so much the number, but the type of followers.
Yeah.
You have these services out there that you can pay to find followers, but a lot of them are bots. A lot of them are just random people who
Yeah.
never gonna even like actually pay attention to anything that you post. So it all goes back to that ideal client thing. Once I figured out who I was looking for, I could find them, and then as a result, that kind of snowballed back to where they were finding me.
Yeah.
So when you look at my followers, we'll say 1,100. There's no bots there. It's all, I mean, there's of course other spray tan artists are in there too, but
Sure.
besides that, um, it's all local people who are actually at some point going to be looking for a spray tan.
Hmm.
And since they're following me, I'm following them. Interacting with them, being social on social media is important.
Yeah.
And having that kind of basis, even before they ever book with you, when they do need a spray tan, they're going to think of you.
Yeah.
So it all goes back to the ideal clients and then interacting with them, and
Right.
not so much worrying about how many followers, but more the quality of the followers.
Agreed. I see a lot of people in the spray tan industry with a ton of followers, and I always wonder how many of those are at other spray tan artists, which obviously, unless
Yeah.
your training's really not going to bring you any business. So it's kind of
Right.
like, and I see people obviously starting out, they're posting in the forums, hey, can you guys follow me? Which I get, they want some numbers on there, but at the end of the day, you want people that are going to actually
Yeah.
become your clients, right? So that's really important to do. Do you have any suggestions on finding influencers? I think to some extent, all probably cities, towns, et cetera, have some level of influencers. Obviously, the bigger the city, the more people there are. You have that, but you also have these people that are influencers that don't really have any pull. They just have a massive following for whatever reason. So I'm kind of
Yeah.
curious how you go about that, or would suggest somebody too.
Yeah. So the main person that I work with, and I've been working with her for a long time now. I honestly don't remember how I found her. I think I just found her like partnering with other
Mhm.
businesses, and she's, always at like the hottest restaurants and like,
Mm.
always doing something around town. And I took a look at her profile, of course, looking at a couple things. One, the type of content, and I was really pulled in by how genuine and authentic she is. She's not someone, and this is what I look for in any influencer. She's not someone that is like trying to sell something on every post, because that becomes redundant. It
Hmm.
becomes kind of annoying if we're being honest. She was very genuine, and I loved that about her. And I knew that if she did agree to create content for me, it would be genuine as well. And people trust her because she is so honest and
Mhm.
authentic, and she is just herself, but while also being pretty positive. So people are really drawn to that and they trust her as a result. And then I looked
Mhm.
at her followers. And this is, I think, really important that people miss, because if, just like your followers, if your followers are not local people who are actually there and, possibly even able to book with you at some point in the future,
Yeah.
what's the point?
Mhm.
Same thing with looking at an influencer. Are their followers actually local, or are they other influencers? Are they people all over the place? Are they bots? A lot of these influencers pay to have people follow them, and they're not actually people at all. And so looking at the quality and location and all of the details of their followers is so important. You want them to match your ideal client. If they don't match, that influencer is not a match for you.
Mhm.
That is so important. And I think that's why a lot of people struggle with this whole influencer thing, in terms of like partnering with their business, because they're not, finding an influencer who actually has influence over their ideal clients.
Right.
Because if they don't, there's no point in this. There's no
Yeah.
point in giving them a free spray tan or
Right.
whatever your agreement is. I think that's the other thing too, is making sure that um, the terms are clear.
Mhm.
If
Yes.
you need to have something written up and have them agree to it, do that. If you're providing a free service, let them know what you expect. Do you expect X number of stories, X number of posts? Whatever that is that you need or that you're looking for, be very clear. Don't have a gray area to where, if they don't do it, like they can't be blamed because they didn't
Yeah.
know that's what they were supposed to do.
Right.
Be very clear on that. And
Yeah.
it can be kind of awkward because it's very businessy and very direct. And you want to be like friendly, obviously. But if it's an actual influencer, they're used to these types of conversations and these types of agreements, and they expect it.
Yeah.
So just be very clear on
Yeah.
expectations.
And at the end of the day, business is business. You got to do what you get. If you want to, again, if you want to treat it like a business, you need to treat it like a
Yep.
business, right? Sometimes it's hard, the awkward conversations, but it's part of the process, for sure. So, Erin, as you've grown over the past, really, year or so, I guess, really, you've seen the growth. Now there's three of you total. What has changed for you? Obviously, you're probably still servicing some clients because you're kind of separate in separate areas, in the Minnesota area. So I'm curious how that works for, or what it looks like for you on like a day-to-day basis versus what it used to be.
Yeah. So I am still servicing clients pretty much every day. There,
Mhm.
I have certain days off, but I am out there in the field working.
Yeah.
My vision, like kind of in the future, is to step back from service provider and step more into like a CEO type of role, um, to where I can focus more on the business aspect and maybe not be working a million hours a week.
Hmm.
Because the reality of being a mobile spray tan artist is it's a lot of hours because of the driving in between clients.
Hmm.
And so I'm wasting a lot of time driving right now, which, don't get me wrong, I love it. I love what I do. And I think in the future I'll still have like my core clients, my regular clients, but
Hmm.
not accept new clients, so that I can focus more time on marketing and business and product development and all of the other things that we all kind of dream of. Because, I have two people, like I have two other spray tan artists, like I said, who I trust with any client. I've trained them hands-on. And I know that I can duplicate that. I'm just not at that point where I want to completely step back from that yet.
Sure.
But that is the vision for the future, for sure.
Okay. Yeah. Very good. I think it's good to hear that, the change and all that, is necessary. And as you grow, you have to consider these things. And it's always kind of, you take a step backwards to take a step forward. It's
Yeah.
kind of the process when you bring somebody on. So that's important for people to know that. For your, it looks like the booking you guys actually have, you use a Acuity, it looks like, for
Mhm.
that. So you do everything online. I'm always curious about that because a lot of
Yeah.
people have challenges, in the forums, you'll see it. Hey, how do you do this? The driving,
Mhm.
the buffer, how do you handle all that? They don't want to have open books because of the time. So I'm curious,
Yep.
has it been pretty flawless on there? Is there ever issues with it?
I For the most part, I really do like Acuity. There's a couple things where I'm like, why does it do it that way?
Mm-hmm.
But overall, out of all of the ones that I've tried, Acuity, I feel like is kind of the best fit for us,
Hmm.
where it's customizable. We can make it look pretty and make it look, on brand and things like
Hmm.
that. And we have enough control over how things are booked and the type, how many different types of appointments we can make, because we also offer teeth whitening, and then we're
Hmm.
in, like I said, different regions. So we have
Yeah.
lots of different appointment types. And so that was really important. But overall, Acuity, I really do like Acuity for, our purposes.
Yeah.
I do have to, most of the time, have to go in there and kind of block some time for travel.
Mm.
That takes up a lot of time, which I don't necessarily like. And I've tried doing it where it leaves a buffer, but then it cuts off appointments towards the end of the day, which I didn't like, because then
Yeah.
of course we're losing money if we're not booking all of our available appointments. So I do go in there on the app or on the website, and kind of block off little chunks of time depending on the location of all of these different clients and the
Hmm.
travel time. And then of course thinking of, okay, is it rush hour and all
Oh
of
yeah.
that. So that I still do manually. I don't love that, but I do need to have that control at this point for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, I don't know if there's a way around that. I've been asked that a few
Yeah.
times. I was like, yeah,
Yeah.
you'd have to have a system that tied into the GPS and understood the traffic and all. That's a little bit
Right.
more advanced.
Hmm.
Somebody will figure it out someday, I'm sure. Definitely.
Yep.
Definitely. So yeah, you mentioned the products earlier. It looks like you guys have some products. You want to tell us a little bit about those?
Yeah, so we have body butter, soap, face tan water, and then a mitt. And so, I mean, it's pretty, a lot of spray tan artists offer same or similar type of products,
Yeah.
but for us, it has been wonderful for the bottom line, because most clients will buy it.
Mm.
When you're going over the aftercare and like, when to rinse and, what to do, you just say, you hold up the body butter. Okay, use this to moisturize twice a day, and they buy it. So
Yeah.
it doesn't feel like we're selling it or anything like that. It's just, use this. It's gonna help your spray tan last.
Yeah.
However
Right.
you want to word that. It's a very natural type of conversation. So when we go over, what time you should rinse, what that rinse looks like, we'll kind of like show them what that looks like.
Mhm.
It just is a very natural conversation. And then we also, if they buy all four products, they get I think it's about a 15% discount. So they get a bundle price, and
Mm.
a lot of people take advantage of that.
Oh,
So
very cool.
I think the bundle, if I'm, don't quiz me, but I think the bundle price is like $74 for
Okay.
all four products. And originally, if they bought individually, it'd be like $86 or
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, I see
Um,
it 74 here.
and
Yeah.
so
Very.
they, they're like, okay, that's great. I'll take one of each.
Yeah.
It's just an easy sell. And of course, that, you know, increases our average appointment by
Yeah.
$74.
Yeah, that's
So
awesome.
it's
I think a
great.
lot of mobile people are kind of adverse to sell or curious about selling and carrying
Yeah.
products and stuff
I
like
was
that. But
too.
yeah,
I was too for a long time. I was like, how is that going to work logistically? It just doesn't make sense. It's so much to haul around. I was making all of these excuses
sure.
until I finally just did it. I just have like a separate little case that I bring, a couple things of each product each
Yeah,
day. Um, and it works great.
easy
So
enough. Yeah.
yeah,
If you got 5 appointments, take enough to sell to 5 clients and leave the
exactly.
rest. Yeah.
Yep.
Very good. Very good. What types of solution do you use?
Oh my gosh, I have spent probably hundreds of dollars trying samples and different things from all of the different
Sure.
solution companies. It feels like there's a new solution every week.
Hmm.
And it can be very easy to fall into, okay, I need to use the newest and bestest thing. And I've definitely kind of done that, done
Sure. We all have.
that.
Yeah.
But at this point, we are really, really happy with two different product lines. One is glazed, which I think is really popular right now.
Yeah.
Um,
Audrey.
Audrey did a great job
Yeah.
developing the solutions. They're amazing. And then Bronze Me Baby. We use Swim Leak specifically, and I love it.
Oh,
Love
very
it.
good. Carrie and Audrey, yeah.
Yeah.
Spend some time both of them at Slay the Spray this year, so it's great. But yeah, there's a lot of products, and part of the thing,
Oh, yes.
part of what we try to tell people is find what works for you and stick with it. Spend that time and money investing elsewhere, influencers, marketing, advertising, whatever that looks
Oh my
like.
gosh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
I think we're pretty good with glazed and bronzy baby, where
Yeah,
like, all these new things come out and I'm less tempted to try.
yeah, yeah. I know. I
Yeah,
think
it,
it's
it is
always,
still tempting though.
yeah, I think it's always there. You just have to, it's one of those things where I feel like if you write it down or say, I'll just sleep on it and decide tomorrow, you'll think about it and logically you won't do it.
Yes.
We're so used to now, just like probably thanks to Amazon, just buying stuff like immediately.
Hmm.
So
Without even thinking about
yeah,
it.
without even thinking
Absolutely.
about it for sure. And well, before I wrap up, I want to thank you for coming on and sharing your story and your journey. It's amazing. Thank you for letting us into that story really, I think, will resonate with a lot of people, and they can see that the challenges you were up against and how you overcame that, all you had going on in your personal life and still do with 3 kids, being able to take that step out, what that looked like, how spending time actually determining who your ideal client is important. Well, I'll try to find that old worksheet and put that in the show notes. And I think you had something you wanted to put in the show notes as well. So we'll put that there if you want to talk about that. And then if anybody has questions for you, what's the best way to get in touch?
So on Instagram was probably the best
Mm,
way, and it's at blend.mn.
okay,
Yeah,
very
that's
good.
probably the quickest way to get a response from me.
Yeah, and what was the thing you mentioned you were going to download? We'll
Yeah,
put it down.
so one of the things that we also introduced around that same time, February or not February, but March, April timeframe last
Mhm.
year was our aftercare card. And it's like a postcard size, and we utilize QR codes for payment, and then also for aftercare, which brings them to our Instagram, and then
Mhm.
also for Google review. So our Google reviews increased dramatically once we started giving this postcard, because it's right there. It's so easy for them. All they have to do is scan and then type up their review. A lot of times they have a review posted before I even get to the next client. So that has helped dramatically. And we do get a lot of clients, a lot of new clients finding us via Google and reading our reviews. They tell
Yeah,
us specifically, we loved your reviews. And so, yes, I'm gonna give away a free template for that postcard that we
awesome.
use. And I will give the link to you, Grant, and then
Yeah,
you put it in the show
I'll
notes.
put it down below. Definitely, definitely, Aaron. We'll make sure to do that. Before I wrap up, I do have one last question. If you had to write a letter to yourself when you were just starting out, what would you say?
I knew you're obviously you asked. I know you're going to ask
Yeah,
this, and I know a lot of people say like customer service,
yeah,
and that is absolutely important. But I'm going to kind of take a different route, especially what I went through with my extreme downs in business.
yes.
What I learned is just to keep in motion. It doesn't mean you have to work a full day every
Mm,
day. Even if you're going through something where, your kid is sick, or you're going through a breakup, or whatever it is that you're going through, do something. Do something every day. Whether that is washing your brushes or cleaning your gun, it doesn't have to be doing a million things. But as long as you keep in motion, you can keep momentum and not have to continuously restart. I think in
yeah.
business, that happens a lot, where you have to keep restarting and regaining momentum. But if you do something, just stay in motion. Just any
Yeah.
little bit of motion helps. Cleaning, organizing your supplies, reordering inventory, something. You can just stay in motion and not have to try to redo everything and then lose all of the momentum that you
Yeah.
previously gained.
Yeah, you just said the word that came to my mind. Momentum is huge.
Yeah.
It's underrated in life and business. I think
Yeah.
you get a little bit of momentum, like you said. It's easy to kind of stunt that, but it's also pretty easy to keep it going, right? It's one of those
It's
things where,
easier than
yeah,
we think it is.
yeah, just a little thing, like you said, just
Yeah.
do one thing. Maybe it's reaching out to 5 clients from last week
Yeah.
and saying, "How was your 10?" Or "Do you mind leaving us a review?" or something
Yeah.
to treat that
Exactly.
well. Yeah, I
Exactly.
love
Just
that
do
one.
something.
Yeah, I love that one, Aaron. Thanks for sharing that. I think that's the first time we had that one, so very good. That's creative. I like
Awesome.
that. Well, Aaron, thank you again. Thanks so much for sharing your story. We'll look forward to putting this out. And if anybody has questions, they can reach out to Erin. She's very transparent, obviously has a great story to share, has been through a lot of changes and things over the last couple of years. So Erin, thanks so much again for sharing your journey, and I hope you have a great day and happy tanning.
Awesome. Thank you, Grant.